Welcome to Kino Society with Owen Shapiro. In today's episode, we have Axel Kuczywaski, an Argentine film journalist, screenwriter, and film producer. Among his greatest successes is the film The Secret of Their Eyes by Juan José Campanella, a movie that won the Oscar for Best Foreign Language Film at the 82nd Academy Awards, in which he participated as associate producer. Welcome to Kino Society, Axel.
Hi, it's a pleasure to meet you finally.
Would you mind telling us a bit about your background and what attracted you to movies?
Oh, so you have like 3 hours? No, I'm kidding. Okay, I grew up in Buenos Aires, Argentina. I fell in love with film when I was a kid, and I dreamt for years. I thought being a movie maker was my destiny. But you know, life is kind of has mysterious ways, and I ended working on TV. First as a TV reporter specializing on movies, and then I was part of the programming, group that was responsible for the Argentinian biggest TV network, which is Telefe. And I was there for many years. I also have a side show, which is I'm a TV host, and I was hired by TNT, who handles the Oscars for Latin America. So I was working, on programming on this huge TV network, and also doing interviews on red carpets for TNT Latin America. When many years ago, Juan José Campanella, which is a very well-known Argentine director, came to me and said, "Hey, have you ever thought of producing films?" And I said, "Yeah, sure. That's a dream of me." And he said, "Well, I do think you could be a good film producer." So we started working on the project that became The Secret in Their Eyes, and as you said before, did win the Oscar for Best Foreign Film 10 years ago. So that's how I came into be a film producer.
So you'd say your first experience as a producer was pretty successful.
Yeah, my first credited film. I think it's a rather unique story because you have heard a lot of people talking about their struggles in order to do the job they have been dreaming of for many years. But in my case, it was just like that. It was like, I don't know. I don't think I can't imagine anybody else in the world having an experience as mine, which is rather.
What was the first movie experience that you remember?
There's a family lore that says that I saw my first film when I was like 3 months old, and it was an European art house movie. Of course, I don't remember a thing of that, but I do remember myself watching, films on TV when I was like 5 years old, and my parents and grandparents taking me to the movies. And my dad used to have this is going to sound like kind of alien to you, but there was something called Super 8mm projectors. But the thing is, my dad used to have one of those, and he used to rent Super 8mm films. And we used to have movie nights way before, VHS or DVD, or even, watching movies on VOD. So I grew up. It's not that I have a single one memory of a particular movie. I can remember every single movie I've seen. Don't ask me why. I don't remember my parents' birth dates, but I do remember every single movie I've seen.
It's quite the accomplishment. Yeah, I think Super 8 is still around for mostly student films nowadays. Like students at universities often make their films with Super 8 kind of as an older, more homage thing.
Yeah, I know. There has been a comeback of, all those film formats in the last couple of years. But back then, in the 70s, mid-70s, and I'd say like, early 80s even, that was the only way you have to capture your family somehow. I mean, there wasn't any other way besides, taking pictures or taping their voices to do anything. There were no video cameras back then. So that's the reason why my dad bought, a Super 8 camera and then a Super 8 projector.
So what was it like going from watching movies and talking about movies to making movies?
It was a ride. That was a hell of a ride. It was a roller coaster. Well, before becoming a producer, I wrote some sitcoms and TV shows in my country. So I had some experience, how, a comedy or a drama was put forward. I knew how to structure a narrative and how, which elements do you need in order to set up a TV show or a TV series series or a movie. So it wasn't a big surprise in the sense that it wasn't completely different from the things that I was doing previously. Yet the whole experience of knowing that 2 years of your life, which is a huge investment in one single project, are going to end in the big screen, that was something completely different. I wasn't prepared for the kind of reception that the movie had.
So do you think that your production experience changed your perspective as a journalist?
Well, for me, it's kind of hard to separate both things. When you're interviewing people, as you're doing now, you're learning. You keep learning along. So the moment I became a producer, all that knowledge that I got from interviews was completely useful. And also, becoming a producer, I became also a better, interviewer, because I knew the process from the creative process from inside. So I do think that both things they work together at the same time. It's almost the same thing.
What's your specific role on a set?
Well, I seldom go to set. My job is much more about creating the project, getting financing, packaging the whole idea, getting every single element that eventually will become the movie. If I go to the set, it's basically because I'm visiting. I have nothing to do on set. I am not a field producer. That's not my job. I do a lot of things before the movie starts shootings, and I do a lot of things while in other places while the movie is being shot, and also I do a lot of things after the shoot ends. I don't have a lot of things to do on set. I do feel kind of an intruder each time I go there. And it's like, oh, here comes the producer. Everybody looks at you like you're a mean, evil guy, even though I have nothing to do on set.
So you've produced mostly Argentinian movies, right?
I would say that, out of 84 movies I've been involved, I would say 70 were either Argentinian or co-productions between Argentina and some other countries. But I have made movies in Chile. I made movies in Spain a lot. I made movies in Canada. I made movies, in Mexico and Bolivia. And yeah, I've been working in a lot of places, but most of the films I'm involved with used to be Argentinian. That was before I became, for many years, I used to work for companies. So when I used to work for companies, it was a completely different game than the moment I decided to fly solo and created my own production company. So now I'm working on shows, TV shows and movies in England a lot. I am mostly working on England basically now.
So are there any differences between producing in Argentina and in Europe?
Inflation rates, that's a huge difference. In countries that are going through an eternal crisis like Argentina, you don't know exactly how inflation rates will affect you. You don't know exactly how much, a diet soda will cost in a year. And that affects the way you're prepping, the way you're planning, the way you're thinking about the project, and how to finance a movie to be made in a country where the currency keep losing its value like every single day. So that's the main big difference. That's something that it's really, well, I guess a little bit about Argentina. And it's a country where last year, the annual inflation rate was 47%. You can imagine living in a country where things at the end of the year basically do cost 2 times that they used to cost 12 months before. It's almost impossible to set up a movie in a country like that. And that's why I keep, making films that are co-productions between Argentina and some other countries. That's the only way to put together a movie without the financial strains of a movie that has such a huge inflation rate.
So you'd say it's a much calmer experience to film something in a country with less of an inflation rate?
For me, making films outside Argentina, it's basically like taking vacation. It's a huge difference. At the same time, that prepared me for everything. So, living in a country like I used to live. I used to live in Buenos Aires. I moved into LA almost a year ago. Yeah, a year ago. When I was living there, I became, my skin grew thicker. That's something that happens when you live in a country like Argentina.
So what makes you interested in betting on a project? Is it just intuition?
Well, I would say that the first thing you ask yourself is, would I pay a ticket for this movie? It's a movie I would like to watch. It's a movie that will affect me emotionally somehow. It's a narrative I do think it's compelling. How do I connect with the material? Do I connect with the people who's making the film? Do I admire the people behind the idea? behind the story. It's an issue that I think I would like to address somehow. Yeah, there are a lot of questions that make you decide why a movie is something that you want to pursue. And when you have to remember this, making a film takes like 2 years at least, So it's a huge commitment. You're going to spend 2 years, and even more than that, thinking about one single idea, about a project that is going to, hijack your life somehow. So it's a huge commitment. You have to be completely aware of the stuff that you're doing. You have to know, you have to have a clear motivation in order to have this kind of commitment.
So what do you think is the highlights of your career so far?
Let me see. There are a lot of movies that I'm really proud of. Some of those films where I've been involved with have been huge successes in either my country or some other countries, or, like The Secret in Their Eyes, which was the movie that made me a producer. And as I told you before, went into winning the Oscar. Wild Tales, which is another movie I was part of that was nominated for an Oscar. That was a movie that I enjoyed a lot. That was a great experience. Besides that, there are a lot of films that are not so well known outside Argentina that I do feel I own somehow. Yeah, that's a good way. You in order to embrace a project, you have to feel like you own the project. It's not in real terms. It's not that you really own the movie. You have to feel that you own the movie, So I would say that a movie like Paulina, La Patota, which is a movie that was my idea and did win the Cannes Film Festival, that was a movie that I'm really proud of. That's a highlight. And of course, there's, after creating my own production company with my great partners, Finglin and Cindy Tepperman, we created a show in the UK, which is called Stage, that you can watch that show on Hulu, starring David Tennant, Michael Sheen, with guest stars as Whoopi Goldberg, Ewan McGregor, Cate Blanchett, Samuel Jackson, Judi Dench. I mean, that's a show that we created, in lockdown, and that was broadcast in the UK by BBC, and I'm really proud of that. I think that we made a good show in a very stressful moment for mankind, which was COVID-19 lockdown. So I'm really happy. That's one of the latest projects that I'm really, really proud of.
So is there any conflicts between the decisions of the producer and the director that often occur?
No, I mean, always, but actually you need conflict in order to have creativity. I mean, it's like the idea that you can create without any constraint. I mean, it's not real. I mean, you're always dealing with real life while you are creating something. And that means that from time to time, directors and producers, we don't have to agree on everything. We don't have to agree on everything. It's like, we have discussions, but that's part of the creative process. I mean, it's not, there's a whole idea in the world that creativity has something to do with art, and actually the creative process have nothing to do with art. I mean, you can have a creative process applied to everything. I mean, you can be a highly creative cab driver. You can be a highly creative, and whatever you want to do. You can find new ways of doing things, because creativity is actually the way you are facing conflict.
Since 2004, you have been the host of the pre-show of the delivery of the Oscars for TNT, in a transmission that is seen by more than 120 million people. What does this mean to you, and why do you think awards are important?
Well, that's a lot. Well, the best thing about movie awards and TV series awards is that those award ceremonies are basically a way to raise the profile of project, make people, curious about movie or a TV show, and that's something that actually quite good. A lot of TV shows. I give you an example. Have you seen Schitt's Creek? But you know about the show. Okay, the show is really good. It was made in Canada. It was a Canadian show. Nobody cared about. It became a sensation after getting some nominations for, I think it was the Golden Globes or the Emmys. But before that, it was a hit in Canada, but nobody knew about the show. And now the show is being broadcast all around the world. And you can watch Schitt's Creek anywhere, from Latin America to Eastern Europe to Asia. And that's because you have awards. So I would say that award ceremonies are amplifying, and that's a really good thing. For me, being on the red carpet, interviewing people, it's really, I'll tell you, it's a riot. I have a lot of fun there. I have a lot of fun. And to meet people that I've been following for years, as a movie fan, not only as a producer, but also one thing that happens a lot to me is I have friends that are being nominated like every single Oscar, ceremony, or every single Emmy or Golden Globes award. So when you have your friends being nominated, it's lovely. It's great. It's great to meet these people on the red carpet and, hug them and say something like, hey, break a leg. This is going to be your night. I love you. I'm really proud of you. You're my friend. Yeah, I love this. I love to tell people that watching films and watching, a TV show is a great thing to do. And that's a really nice platform to do that. It's a beautiful launching pad for that.
So you mentioned that awards can sometimes bring light to things that aren't very well known. But what about the other side, which a lot of people tend to have problems with, where instead of nominating things that are lesser known and more creative, they tend to, like the term Oscar bait exists because there are a lot of things that feel as if they're made to appeal directly to awards.
Well, based on my experience, there is not such thing as Oscar bait. There is no way to create a movie that is going to win an Oscar. I'll give you an example. This year, I think it was 92 or 93 movies from all around the world are participating in the, international film feature category for the Oscars. It's formerly known as Best Foreign Film. They changed the name like 2 years ago. So that's 92 movies. And out of those 92, at the end, you will have 5 candidates for the Oscar. I mean, there's no way that you can create a movie with the single purpose of winning an Oscar because the process is so complex and it takes so much time that if you even try to create a movie for, in order to win an award, voters will notice that. So I don't think there is any chance to create a movie with that single purpose. I'll give you an example. This year, there was a lot of buzz about the film called Hillbilly. What was the title?
Hillbilly Elegy?
Yeah. Have you heard about that? Yeah. There was.
Yeah, I heard actually really bad things about that one.
Well, the movie was, I heard that when the movie was, before it was released, a lot of people said something like, this is Oscar bait, they're aiming for the Oscars, and you can smell it. You can smell Oscar. There's Oscar written all over it. And you know what happened at the end? It got only 2 nominations, Best Makeup and Best Supporting Actor for Glenn Close. And that's it. So that's this movie, kills that notion of, Oscar bait. I don't think that you can create a movie with the single purpose of winning an award.
It's definitely, a lot of people often say you have to do a period piece or it's always a different argument each time.
I mean, if there is a recipe for that, I want it. I'll give you my email. Please send that to me. Well, tell that to the guys that made Parasite.
Yeah, that was definitely a unique choice that I definitely liked. That was my favorite movie that year. So
yeah, well, yeah, but we can, if we look back to the last 20 years of the Oscars, I would say you don't have a lot of period pieces there. No. You have Green Book, yeah, you have some movies here and there, but there's a lot of movies that aren't period pieces, So there are no rules. It has much more to do with the sheer quality of the project, how the project connects with the audience, and I would say how the project interacts with content, how a project comments on the world around us. That makes a movie worthwhile for the Oscar.
Well, earlier this year, or very recently actually, the Golden Globes nominated a movie called Music for Best Comedy, which was, I saw it a while back, I think like a day after the Golden Globes, and that was absolutely horrible. Everyone was pretty right about that. And people were very, very confused. Same thing with the American movie getting nominated in Best Foreign, which everyone was confused about.
Let's go one by one. In the case of Music, I haven't seen the movie. I have no idea exactly why the movie was so insulting for so many people. You must remember that Golden Globes are not the Oscars. There's a huge difference. The Golden Globes are being held by an organization called the Hollywood Foreign Press Association, which is roughly 80 members from different countries that are living and working on the US, on LA. So it doesn't represent what the industry thinks of itself. It doesn't represent how filmmakers see their peers. It's So it's a completely different game than the Oscars. And the other movie you mentioned was Minari, which is a South Korean film. It's a rather good, nice film. I mean, I really like it. The thing with Minari is that the Golden Globes have a category which is called Best Foreign Language Film. And that doesn't mean that the movie has to be from a foreign country. It means that if the movie is not in English, it qualifies.
I think that's pretty ridiculous, but okay then.
I mean, yeah, it could be, but those are the rules. I mean, if you want to play the game, you have to play by the rules. Bottom line, each time somebody is giving away an award, we are talking about subjectivity. It's an opinion. An award is an opinion. If someone thinks that your work stands out, it's not a rule. It doesn't mean that a movie is better or worse than the other films. It only means that the people that it's giving away that award like that movie better than the other. And, that's why I don't discuss awards. I mean, I don't discuss not the award as a concept. I don't discuss why the Oscars are giving away an award to, Green Book instead of giving that award to a movie that I think is better. Because at the end, it's a simple matter of taste. I like some stuff, you like some other stuff. Are we going to fight about movies? I don't think so. It's not going to happen.
So speaking of taste, do you have any favorite movies or directors?
It's weird, I would say that I have many favorite films and many favorite directors, but that list is so long that it will take us like days and days to, mention every single name on that list. It's not that I have a top 10 films. In fact, I have a top 10 list, but it keeps changing like every 2 hours. And if you ask me now, which movie is your favorite? I don't know. Maybe I will say The Searchers, the 1956 movie directed by John Ford and starring John Wayne. But if you call me in like 3 hours, I'll tell you another movie because I keep changing. I'll say another movie. I keep changing. If you love films and if you really love movies, it's not that you love a particular film. You love movies in general. And that's what happens to me.
That's definitely very understandable. So, all right, we're almost out of time. So how can my listeners connect with you?
You can follow me on Twitter, at Axel Kuschevatzky without the last letter, Axel Kuschevatzky. And you can, I'm also on Instagram and Facebook. I do everything. If you have a new social network, give me a call because I will join. I'm very much into social media. I enjoy the interaction with people. So yeah, you can find me there.
All right, that's all for today. Don't forget you can subscribe to Kino Society on iTunes and Spotify.